Gospel according to Luke. Glory to you, O Lord. Now, as Jesus and his disciples went on their way, he entered a certain village where a woman named Martha welcomed him into her home. She had a sister named Mary who sat at the Lord's feet and listened to what he was saying. But Martha was distracted by her many tasks. So she came to him and asked, "Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to do all the work by myself? Tell her then to help me." But the Lord answered her, "Martha, Martha, you are worried and distracted by many things. There is need of only one thing. Mary has chosen the better part, which will not be taken away from her." The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, O Christ. Amen. What do you do when company is coming to your house? What do you do? Clean. Some of us maybe need to do that a little more than others, but yeah, we do a lot of cleaning at our house. What else do you do? Cook? Who goes to the store if you know company's coming? Yeah, there's a lot of things that we do in order to get ready. In our house, we pick up the clutter, or we at least hide the clutter. We vacuum the carpets. I like to sweep the floors. We make sure the bathroom's clean and the countertops are wiped down. You make sure that there's drinks in the fridge and a snack or a meal is ready to go when people get there, right? That's just part of hospitality when people are coming to your house. Well, our story today involves a lot of hospitality. Martha and Mary in our gospel text today, they don't really seem to get any forewarning that Jesus, this guest, this visitor, is coming to their place. Jesus is passing through town, probably on his way to somewhere else, and Martha greets him. Martha greets him and offers hospitality. It's simply the thing to do. It's what we heard about in our Old Testament text as well, as these three strangers come across, and Abraham says, "Stay for a while, let me prepare food for you and bring you something to drink." Hospitality at its best. And hospitality was especially important in that time and in that culture. So Martha, frantically running around because she hasn't had any time to prepare for Jesus, this guest who was coming, so she runs around, making sure that there's water and towels to wash and dry his feet, making sure that there's probably bread baking, that there's a meal being fixed, that the table is set, and who knows what else. And then in the midst of her chaos, she glances out into the other room and she sees her sister just sitting there. Now, have you ever had that kind of experience where you're doing all kinds of things and somebody else is just sitting around being lazy, right? It just makes you mad. It makes you angry, and it did so for Martha. Here she was seeing this lazy sister of hers, Mary, just sitting on the floor listening to Jesus tell stories, right? I mean, after all, there's hospitality to be done that was critical, and she couldn't even bother herself to help. And she gets so mad that she walks into the other room, and she doesn't address Mary even, she addresses Jesus and says, "Don't you care that my sister has left all the work to me? Tell her then to get up and help me." Well, there's a couple things wrong in that scenario. Because first off, Martha has now put this guest of theirs in the middle of a sisterly squabble, and that's no place anybody wants to be. And then as Jesus replies to her, his reply is where things start to get interesting. He says, "Martha, Martha, you're worried and distracted by many things. There is need of only one thing. Mary has chosen the better part, which will not be taken away from her." The first two words, Martha, Martha. It might sound like he's being either condescending or critical, but actually saying the person's name twice implies endearment. So it was a term of endearment with which Jesus addressed her. She hadn't done anything wrong, but then again, either had Mary. As important as proper hospitality was, though, Martha had forgotten the most important piece of hospitality, and that was the guest. Listening to, having conversation with, and relationship with this guest who was teaching and telling stories, especially when it's Jesus. She was so distracted by the tasks that she missed the person. Now, I've been in churches before where they worry an awful lot about what kind of coffee to serve during coffee hour or how many donut holes we should order on a weekly basis, whether to use real cups or styrofoam, is the sanctuary as clean as it can be, and more, just to ensure that the visitors have a good first impression and experience of the congregation. And it's not that that's wrong, but I've also been places that do all of those things and then yet fail to engage the guest and the visitor when they come. Martha forgot who the guest was. Jesus, the Messiah, the Son of the living God, was sitting right there in the living room, and she was off baking and doing dishes, instead of experiencing God right there in her own home. She was so worried about providing proper hospitality prescribed by the culture of the day and distracted by the meal that she was missing the experience of God. And as important as hospitality was, it wasn't the top priority in that house at the moment. But it also this story doesn't seem too far off from our culture today. I would venture to say that we probably have way more things in our lives than Mary and Martha ever did that distract them and worry them from time to time. You see, the word distract is an interesting one in our gospel text. If you take its original Greek, it has the connotation of being torn or pulled in many different directions. How often do we miss God at work in the world because we are torn in different directions by our calendars, our work, our families, our friends, even our faith lives? There are so many things vying for our attention, almost demanding it. How do we possibly focus and sometimes even know what is the most important thing at the moment? How often do we miss Christ at work even in our own midst? By not seeing Jesus in the face of the person across the table or in the face of the person down the pew. Mary was living in that moment. And she was seeing the moment for what it was. It was a God moment. Experiencing God firsthand, very real, right then and there. Now, most of us, I would venture to say, we don't wake up in the mornings and say, okay, today I think I'm going to ignore God's presence in my life and God's influence in my life. And yet, I think if we're honest with ourselves, we understand that we're a little like Martha. We all too often go from one project or appointment to another without seeing God as a priority or even sometimes seeing God as present in our lives during the day. I don't think that this text is meant to scrutinize those in our world who are the Marthas, the busy ones. We need those people in our world. But I do think it's a reminder to us that we need to be careful of where our priorities are. We live in a world, as you know, that is far too often defined by our productivity, by what we do and how busy we are, instead of simply who we are. Jesus reminds Martha, Jesus reminds us as well that our worth comes from being a child of God, by being called by name, Martha, Martha. There's nothing that we do or that we can busy ourselves with that can increase our worth in God's eyes. Faith life is a bit of a balancing act. The Mary and the Martha in each one of us. We need those moments of quiet listening at the feet of Jesus in order to be strengthened and fed and to grow so that we can offer hospitality and forgiveness and love to those around us. What happens at the end of the story of Mary and Martha? What happens? Nobody knows. Do we know whether Mary decided to stand up and go help and pitch in the kitchen? No. Do we know whether Martha decided to slow down enough to sit at the feet of Jesus and listen? No, we don't. We don't. And I think perhaps that's because we're left to answer that for ourselves. Depending on who we relate to at any given point in time in our lives, might dictate how we respond to this story. A lot of times pastors will preach up here, and we preach about doing things for others. And that is important. That is necessary. That is part of our calling. But this text reminds us that it's okay. Actually, it's necessary and a priority for us to also at times sit and experience God for ourselves. To grow in faith, to hear God's word, to slow ourselves down in order to experience God in very real ways, especially in the people around us. So whether you identify with Mary or with Martha this morning, rest assured of one thing. God continues to love you. God still wants you to sit at his feet and listen and be fed and be nurtured so that you can then go and be God's hands and God's feet in the world.